Picking up on number 2, so we can get into the swing of these secant, cosecant curves. What do you know about number 2? You guys started writing information down. What can you tell me?
Center line is negative 4 pi.
Okay.
Amplitude is 0.
Okay. Center line is negative 2.5.
It's secant, so that means cosine.
Amplitude is 0.5. It is a secant graph, which means we are going to have to start off drawing a cosine graph, which looks like a valley. Okay, good, good. What else you got?
Period is pi over 2. Phase shift is negative 5.
Okay, my period, if you recall, is 2 pi divided by b, b being your value, the coefficient of x. So 2 pi divided by 4, which is pi over 2. Phase shift. What'd you say the phase shift was? Okay, I agree, negative pi. It is c over b. So that's going to be the 4 pi divided by the 4, opposite the sign of 4 pi. So negative 4 pi divided by 4, which is negative pi, which means I'm going to be going which direction? Left pi. And this is where the off-center vertical axis makes things a little more awkward here, because I'm going to have to go left pi and not a lot of room to go left pi there. But I just extend the x-axis if I need to, which it looks like I do on this one. Yeah, and in fact, in the past, I have written this information very small, so I have plenty of room to extend.
That's
So I did not allow myself as much room this time, but okay. With this information, start labeling. What are we labeling?
axis.
Okay. Center line is negative 2.5, and you're going up to negative 2 and down to negative 3, because our amplitude is a half, yes?
Yeah.
And remind me during work time, I have sine, cosine worksheets ready to pass back. For the most part, pretty good, although there were a few labeling issues here and there, just forgetting to label or forgetting how to count type things, so be careful. Okay, when we start labeling the horizontal axis, we have a period of pi over 2 that then is going to be shifted left pi. So that's a lot going on. Okay. So a period of pi over 2, which is a pretty small period, isn't it? And I don't want to make my pi over 2 too big, because what do I have to do on the left? On the left, I have to do pi over 2 and then another pi over 2, because I have to get to pi, don't I? So whatever I do on the right, I'm going to have to do double on the left. Make sense? So, you know, judge accordingly. If I do pi over 2 there.
Whoa, that's.
It is small. You want me to go a little bit bigger?
Yeah. I had pi over 2 like a little off center.
Nobody
Or not pi over 2.
Nobody
Pi over 2.
Nobody asked.
Pi.
Okay.
A little off center.
Okay, so now here's the deal. While I think about pi over 2 here, what are we going to have to do with just, before I worry about my left pi, what are we going to have to do with this 0 to pi over 2? It has to be four pieces, doesn't it? Okay, so the middle, what's the middle of pi over 2? Pi over 4. Please label that one. Okay. And then what else do we need? Technically, I agree, the 8s, right? Pi over 8 and 3 pi over 8. The middles of the middles. I'm fine with just tick marks there. This is a small space. It's going to get crazy. So, but I still would like to see pi over 4. Now, what do we have to do on the left? Because there, again, labeling was pretty good in this respect yesterday. But there's a few of you that, you know, you goof up the horizontal labeling. It's important. I have to make sure it's done right. So, we want equivalent pieces, right? So, first of all, can we do an equivalent negative pi over 2? Right? Where I'm going to have tick mark. I'm going to have a negative pi over 4. Tick mark. And I'm going to have a negative pi over 2. Now,
Makes sense to me.
with that in mind, I actually need to be able to go pi left. So what do I need to do?
Extend your axis.
We need to go another
Pi over 2.
pi over 2, which is another 4 marks, right? So can you do this for me? I'm extending my axis, and I'm going to go 1 tick mark, middle tick mark, another tick mark, and an ending tick mark, which puts me at negative pi. I would like to know, what is the middle of negative pi over 2 and negative pi? So what's in the middle of negative 1/2 and negative 1?
Pi over 4.
Negative 1/2 and negative 1 is negative 3/4, yes? So negative 3 pi over 4. Please remember, guys, these are just fractions with a pi attached to them, right? And I know you guys aren't a fan of counting in fractions anyways, but it's a skill we have to be able to do. So just take the pi's off to count fractions. That's what we're doing here. Okay. That's what appropriate labeling should look like. Now, we need a cosine curve that has a period, 1 cycle width of pi over 2. What's that technically going to look like? Cosine starts up high, yes? And so if I just kind of, and actually, excuse me, I'm going to use gray to do this one. If I just put this here, what are we doing? And you may or may not want to put this one in. That's up to you. And I do have colored pencils if you guys want me to pull out colored pencils. I know some of you use colored pens and whatnot, but... And some of you guys just do it all in pencil, which is perfectly fine as well. Now, this is my very small cosine curve, yes?
So,
Now, I'm going to take this original cosine curve, and I have to take this cosine curve and go where? Left pi. So, okay, here's what you need to be able to tell yourself. Where's my new cosine curve going to fit between? Between what and what?
Negative pi over 2.
Does that make sense? Negative pi over 2 and negative pi? Because right now it's from 0 to pi over 2. So it can't be any longer than that. If I'm taking my left piece all the way down to negative pi here, I'm taking my left piece all the way down to negative pi. Well, what is pi to the left of pi over 2? And that is negative pi over 2.
So pi is 4 tick marks, right?
Repeat your question. Technically, pi is more like 8 tick marks, if we include all the littles.
So you just take 8 tick marks over 2.
Essentially, yes. Because if I'm trying to go left pi, I'm trying to go down here. So that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 tick marks. So everything you do moves 8 tick marks left if your graph is set like mine. Now, here's my thing. I know it begins at negative pi, ends at negative pi over 2. I can sketch that in. Because what's a cosine do? It starts high, crosses, mins, crosses, maxes. Again, for the most part, most of you did pretty good. Not much of an issue, but where should my mins and maxes be equal to? Negative 3 and negative 2. In fact, I technically don't like where oh, wait. More like there. Okay. Got my cosine curve drawn. Now what? Asymptotes. Where are the asymptotes?
Pi and negative pi.
Okay. So there's one right here in between negative pi and negative 3 pi over 4. And there's one between negative 3 pi over 4 and negative pi over 2. A typical secant graph based off of cosine only has to have those two asymptotes. And now we need to draw our parabolas. There's going to be one main parabola that is going down, yes? The top of that parabola matches the bottom of my valley. Correct? And they're touching each other, right?
Whoa.
Now, officially, minimum expectation is what else do I need to draw in here? So I'm not happy if you just draw this. I would also like to see what would be over here. A right side up parabola, although technically you only have to draw half of it. And what's over here on the other side? A right side up parabola, and you technically only have to draw half of it. So those are my minimum requirements.
Can you just?
Can you kind of freehand the other pieces of the parabolas? Yes. Now, here's the deal. This particular graph, these parabolas are pretty small, yes?
Yeah.
So don't go wild and crazy and be like, okay, there's the other half of my parabola. Because that makes me, question what you're thinking. Obviously, I'm taking that off because, if you're going to continue your parabolas, more power to you, I'm fine with that. Try and make them appropriate width. I mean, if I look and see where would my next asymptote be, it'd be right there. Did I kind of stay within that? I did. This guy, I don't know, might have gotten a little wide. I think I would have made it. Okay. Questions on a secant graph? Okay, are you starting on the next one, it looks like? Sophie, were you surprised there's only 2 more, I take it?
Yes. I was like, I thought there was going to be a whole other page. I was
Yeah.
ready to keep
It's
going.
a sign.
Okay, number 3. What are you telling me?
Isn't it like this?
Zero.
Okay. So let's see. Center line is 0 because what's the invisible number here? Plus 0. This is a cosecant graph, which means I'm going to be basing off of sine. And if you need a visual, sine is a mountain valley combo. Okay. What else do we know? Okay. Amplitude is 4.
What's next?
What about a period?
2 pi over b.
Over 3.
Pi over.
2 pi over b.
Is that an X or is that
B
an
is 1.
Okay, so this, where my area is supposed to be bx, that is x over 2. So think of that as 1x over 2. So what does that make my b value? 1/2. So yes, because now I'm going to do a keep change flip, if you will. 2 pi divided by 1/2 is multiplying by 2 over 1. 2 pi times 2 over 1 is 4 pi. So we went from the last problem where it's a very small period to this problem where it's a big period.
Oh my gosh.
And then to add all the fun to this problem, we need to talk about the phase shift. What's my phase shift? So if we're going C over B, realize that is, what is that C value? It's a pi over 3 divided by B, which is a 1/2. And since that's a plus sign, this is going to be a negative, yes? So if I do my keep change flip, it's negative pi over 3, or I should say multiply by the reciprocal. Dividing by 1/2 is multiplying by 2 over 1. Negative 2 pi over 3.
Do you extend this one a lot?
I do not extend this one a lot. And in fact, I managed to keep it within what's there. Because, and here's the deal. Yes, I have to
erased
move left
everything
2 pi over 3. But on the flip side of this, the period is 4 pi.
Mm-hmm.
Which means I can't make my 2 pi over 3 very big and still be able to get in a distance of 4 pi. Does that make sense what I'm saying there? Okay, now, I'm going to start with my pi's because I can't even talk thirds. until I have some basic numbering on here. Oh, let's see. Well, actually, I guess we usually start with centerline and amplitude, don't we?
Yeah.
With this in mind, centerline is 0, yes?
Yes.
Amplitude is 4. Kind of like that one that was 5 yesterday. Now, I don't know if I mentioned it in this class, but if you're doing an amplitude of 4, I wouldn't necessarily say you have to put in the 1, 2, 3, 4 tick marks. You can put in 1 tick mark and label those as 4 and -4. As long as they're labeled appropriately, you don't have to have 1, 2, 3, 4 tick marks. Does that make sense? Just make sure you label, of course. Okay. Now, I'm going to start with the fact that my period is 4 pi. I'm going to use the entire length here and call this 4 pi. I'm using the entire length because I've already looked ahead and realized my phase shift is left, so I don't need to be able to go any farther right than 4 pi. I don't want to talk thirds yet, because I need to just get where are my whole pi's. So what's the middle of 4 pi?
2 pi.
2 pi. And I'm not even doing this necessarily. Well, I guess I am and I am not at the same time, because I want to break it into 4 pieces, but it's also just because I need to know where my whole pi's are. Middle of 2 pi is
Pi.
pi. The middle of 2 and 4 pi is 3 pi. Now, technically, if we, without any phase shift, we could draw our sine curve right now, yes? Because what's a basic sine curve look like? It's going to start at 0, max over pi, cross at 2 pi, min under 3 pi, cross at 4 pi, yes? And I just went ahead and put that in. That's like me doing a very light pencil mark, because is that going to be anywhere near my final answer?
Nope.
No. Now, I need to go back to labeling, because I have to phase shift this left 2 pi over 3. But I don't have any type of third markings on here, do I?
Looks like you gotta have it.
So what do we need to add here in order to be able to talk 2/3 left? What's going to be the easy, if I'm currently labeled in whole pies, what's going to be the easiest way to label this? What do you know about 1 pi? 1 pi breaks into
3 pi.
3/3, right? So what I'm going to do is between 0 and pi, I'm going to put 2 tick marks that break my sections into 3 sections. Does that make sense? So between 0 and pi, if you will, I'm going to put 2 tick marks, because those tick marks would be technically pi over 3 and 2 pi over 3. Are you with me?
Mm-hmm.
Now, I'm not going to label all this because it's going to get messy. But so what do I need to do between each set of pies?
2 tick marks.
2 tick marks, breaking each pie up into 3 pieces. Are you with me? So between 1 pi and 2 pi, 2 tick marks. Between 2 pi and 3 pi, 2 tick marks. Between 3 pi and 4 pi, 2 tick marks. And we need to do the left side. Now, minimum expectation is you need 2 tick marks, right? Although in all honesty, I would probably go ahead and count down to -pi, just my brain's already working in pies, but minimum expectation here is you need 1 tick mark, 2 tick mark, and then that's -pi. Because then you're doing -pi over 3, -2 pi over 3, and -pi. Not that you have to put that -pi on there. My brain did. Okay. Do you know how to finish this off?
2 tick marks over.
Okay. Each of the pieces, we're going to move 2 tick marks left. So instead of starting at 0, 0, I'm starting at -2 pi over 3. Instead of having a max above pi, where am I maxing now?
Pi over 3.
Above pi over 3. Notice I'm not doing my dots right now. I'm just putting my marks to connect. My personal choice. Okay, that was pi. So instead of crossing at 2 pi, what are we doing?
crossing it 4 pi.
Okay, crossing it, what would be 4 pi over 3, or 1 mark to the right of pi? Instead of a minimum under 3 pi, go back 2 marks, so we're 1 mark to the right of 2 pi, where we have our minimum. Instead of crossing at 4 pi or ending at 4 pi, go 2 pieces left. Connect the dots. Remember, your sine curve and cosine curve are dotted lines, yes? Because those aren't actually my graphs. We just use them for placement purposes.
So if you do it like that, they're in different colors.
Technically, they need to be dotted lines, though,
Well,
because a solid line makes me think it's part of your graph. I mean, here's what it comes down to. When you do homework, quiz, that kind of stuff, you know, think dotted lines. Okay, what do I need to do to draw cosecant?
The asymptotes and
Asymptotes.
Asymptotes and then parabolas. Where are my asymptotes going to be? Or let me ask this, how many asymptotes am I going to end up with this time?
2, 3, 3.
I would say 3. Because I'm going to have an asymptote at the left end, which is negative 2 pi over 3. You're going to have an asymptote in the middle, which is 4 pi over 3. And an asymptote at the end, which is 1 piece past 3 pi. So 10 pi over 3. So a cosecant curve based on sine is going to have 3 asymptotes. And then you have a, okay, my parabolas don't fit very well, at least up top there, but you have very wide parabolas, yes?
Yes.
Make your parabolas fit the graph. My asymptotes are spaced widely. My parabolas should be spaced widely, right? If your asymptotes are close together, okay, sure, make skinny parabolas. But don't give me real skinny parabolas and wide asymptotes. Make it logical. You seem to be following okay. Question is, can we do it on our own?
Probably not.
Yeah.
That's not looking good.
50-50 shot there, right?
What?
Maybe about 25.
Now, I might have that. One more? Then you have a little bit of work time. Okay. What do you know?
Amplitude 6, the periods.
It's cosine.
It's cosine flipped.
So instead of valley, it's value amount.
Okay. Centerline -5. Amplitude 6. Reflected curve. Secant tells me cosine. Cosine would normally be a valley, but because it's reflected, we're going to be doing a mountain. Okay, I think that's all the random information I heard rattled off. Not random, but you know. You guys always go for the easy beginning pieces and then you slow down here. Okay, what about that period?
I got this.
2 pi. Where did you get 3 pi?
Okay, the formula is 2 pi divided by b. So 2 pi divided by what's b?
2 over 3.
2 over 3. How do we divide fractions? Multiply by the reciprocal. So this is going to be 2 pi times 3 over 2. 2's cancel, and I am indeed at
3 pi.
3 pi.
Okay, I get it now.
Yeah.
Shut up, Myra.
And
I like that.
we've got to add layers of fun here. What about our phase shift?
I got 3 pi too.
also
Same thing.
3 pi.
This one is going to be c divided by b.
Oh,
C is 2 pi. Opposite the sign is a positive 2 pi. Oh, divided by 2/3 again. Deja vu? 3 pi.
Can I make a new center line? Well, not new center line, but a new y-axis.
Okay, guys. And by the way, this phase shift of 3 pi is going to be a right 3 pi.
Oh, yeah, so I don't.
I know, that's why I was dumb. I was like,
No, I was like,
Yeah.
okay. It's okay.
no, if we're going to go left 3 pi, we need to adjust something. I agree. Now, okay, think about this. My period is 3 pi. So my first instinct says to label out to 3 pi. But before I do that, I've got to consider, if I'm going left, okay, I'm just going to start labeling out to 3 pi. But I have to go right, which means I technically have to go 6 pi out. Now, and here's the deal. I don't know, we talked about this on one other one. When your period and your phase shift are the same, you're technically going to end up just in the next cycle. It's not going to really change it. But, okay, so I'm going to label out to 6 pi. Now, think with me here. I'm not going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 pi. Because I don't really want it broken up into 6 pi's, if that makes sense. So I'm going to ask myself, what's the middle of 6 pi? 3 pi. Easy enough?
Yes.
Now, officially what that means is the first cycle is in between 0 and 3 pi. And then the next cycle is in between 3 pi and 6 pi, right? But, so I need to really take 3 pi, because a cycle is 3 pi, so 0 to 3 pi needs broken up into 4 pieces. So what's the middle of 0 to 3? Okay. In my brain, I'm saying the middle of 3, half of 3 is 1.5, or 3 pi over 2. Now, while we're here, I also am going to need the middle of 3 and 6. So just forget pi's, forget fractions. What's the middle of 3 and 6? 4.5, 4.5. Right? Middle of 3 and 6 is 4.5. Make 4.5 improper.
Or 9 pi. 9.
Mm-hmm. It's basic fractions. You can't think of it as anything other than basic fractions. Now, officially, do we need more marks?
Yep.
I'm going to say yes, because 1 period is 3 pi. I only have my 3 pi broken into halves. Now, what am I going to say to do? Tick mark, tick mark, tick mark, tick mark. There we go. I mean, really, what's the middle of 0 and 1.5? That's 3/4, but yeah, exactly, whatever. Okay. Oh, you know what? Yeah, I never did label my amplitude and center line, did I? Okay, -1 for Mrs. Sargent. Got it. Center line is -5. Now, you can make 6 little marks up, or just make 1 mark. And
Label it 6.
up 6 from -5 is 1.
1.
Down 6 from -5 is
11. Negative 11.
-11.
I think it's fine, Maria.
Okay. Now, officially, if I block off the graph past 3 pi, okay, I need 1 cycle to go from 0 to 3 pi, and that is 1 cycle of a reflected cosine.
Would you go start at -11 and then go up, cross through the first tick mark, and then max at 1 and 3 pi over 2, and then back down to the second tick mark, and then stop at 3 pi?
Okay, now,
I hate you. I'm learning.
Sorry.
Still.
Next. we technically have to shift that. if I shift that, here's the deal, guys. I'm taking what's in 0 to 3 pi, and when I move that 3 pi, it's now going to be between 3 pi and 6 pi. So just keep going?
Yeah.
Right? So that whole idea that when your period and your phase shift are the same, we're really not shifting the graph. It's just shifting on top of itself. So we're going to do this all over again. We're going to start low, cross, max, cross, min. So for me, the one in blue is my actual curve. Here's the deal. If you want to draw both of these, that's fine, you know.
I did it all that time too. I tried my best.
Okay. Minimum expectation. How many asymptotes am I looking for?
Go to.
2.
I mean, you can draw some more.
I mean, yeah. Could we draw more? Oh, yeah. Can I do this whole 6 pi worth of graph? Sure. But minimum for just one cycle from 3 pi to 6 pi. Like, that's what I'll be looking for in the grade. By all means, do more if you want.
Okay, I was going to ask if you did more. 'Cause I
Yeah,
did
I'm not
more
gonna-
than I-
Just make sure you do more correctly.
Yeah.
You know. And so in the middle, I'm going to have a parabola above 9 pi over 2. And then, what am I looking for here? The halves. Because here's the deal. Whether it's secant or cosecant, minimum requirement is the equivalence of two parabolas every time. With a cosecant curve and sine, it's 2 full parabolas. With a secant curve and cosine, it's 1 full and 2 halves. But 1 full and 2 halves is 2 parabolas. Now, if you want to make the other halves of those, go for it. Okay, again, minimum expectations here is what I'm trying to convey. Okay, you've got some work time. Use it.